Hello. Um, so I chose to watch the video and write about it. So I'll just go ahead and start. I really enjoyed the video that we had to watch it and the content of it. I feel pretty strongly about the topic before I even watched the video. I knew it was going to be about, and I have a strong opinion of it myself before watching it. So it's pretty easy to relate to, and it's very informational in regards to how to combat um, what kind of stereotypes are being put on us as millennials. So I really like the three negative aspects that were highlighted by the first speaker, um, like the introduction guy. He said that being lazy, disloyal, and narcissistic were the three big ones, and I totally agree. I think that those are three big problems, and they definitely impact what people think about, or those are the factors of what people think about millennials. Definitely. I think there are some more though. I think that there's some other equally important ones that may be more important, but if not just equally important, not taking direction well. I think that we're accused of not taking direction well. We're accused of trying to come in and take over businesses, but that's just how we do it when we get things done. And then also we're criticized. Though this sounds odd, we're criticized for working in groups. Older generations didn't usually do that. It was very individual. I'm going to do this. I'm going to get it done. This is what's going to happen. But I know that I grew up working in teams, working in groups. The team life was a big thing for millennials growing up. We were on soccer teams, we were on volleyball teams, we were working in groups in school, and those kind of things translate to our adulthood life. So the next speaker, which was Krista, was discussing laziness and brought up some good points about how millennials demand a type of flexibility in the workplace. So she then talked about how millennials are focused on personal growth versus growing on the corporate ladder, and I think that is is so true. And she didn't really explain what it meant, but I know just because some past research I've done and some learning opportunities that I've had, the reason that millennials are focused on personal growth is because we don't want to be tied down to something that's not giving us what we need. So if I'm at a job and it's not giving me everything I need, I want to have some kind of skill set. I want to have learned something from there that I can take somewhere else. Um, we've if we're not happy, or if we're not being challenged, if we're not liking where we're at, society has made it so easy for us to just move next door, move to the next company down the street. Um, that's why we want to grow our own knowledge so that when we leave and something goes south, we can carry what we know from this job onto the next one and continue to grow ourselves in that way versus staying at HEB and growing up the HEB ladder. You know, um, she also gives us Krista also gives us a way to approach a conversation um, with like about working with flexible approach, talking about how to that we want to work with flexible work hours. Um, I necessarily don't think that's a huge deal, but I do know that a lot of people do, and it's becoming a bigger deal. So maybe in my like profession, it's not really feasible, so that's why it's not really a thing for me. But I know that a lot of people in a lot of industries, it is a thing. It's a important thing. So she gave us some approaches on how to do that, and I think her ideas of clear communication, knowing what is actually feasible, not giving too like crazy ideas, and finding common ground between generations are all really important aspects to actually having any conversation with the supervisor. And I don't think that doesn't have to just pertain to flexible work schedules. I think that it could be any discussion that needs to happen with supervisors. Um, the next speaker was Scott, and he discusses loyalty, which I think is answered with what I just talked about with Krista. Scott mentions how millennials move from job to job, and that's been viewed as disloyal. When in actuality, I don't think that it's disloyal. I think that we're easily dissatisfied because we know that the grass could be greener somewhere else. If we know that something could be better, if we think that something could be better, if we know that there is more opportunities elsewhere, or we're not being given what we think that we would make us most successful, then we're gonna leave. If we're not getting what we need, we're gonna go. Why do we need to stay? And It may not have anything to do with that company, just maybe the environment that it's in, or I mean, it could be thousands of different things. If I'm not getting the best benefits, if I'm not, I mean, there's 1,000 different things that it could be. His advice is in the beginning, it was is to explain in the beginning what's going to make you stay. So if I go in there and I'm like, listen, thank you for giving me this job, I really appreciate it, but these are the things I need. I think that's really good. I also think that it's going to be taken poorly, but that also could be taken poorly. But I think that it is a good start. Maybe going in there, maybe not so abruptly, but just saying, hey, these are what I really am going to need to be successful here. And those kind of things could be anything from make sure I'm challenged, make sure I have a goal to work towards, can we make sure that I'm receiving feedback? One of the big things about millennials is that we want a mentor versus a boss. And I know that like gets people riled up, but if we just have somebody beating us down, you're wrong, do this, that's not right, okay, that's fine. Well, that's not helping. That's the personal growth thing. That's just getting the job, handing the work in, getting the job done, moving on. And that's not what we're about. We're about bettering ourselves, making things better, growing up the personal ladder. If we're not getting feedback on why we did it wrong, what we did wrong, why it was good, what he did better than me, I did better than her, we're not growing. And so we want mentors versus bosses, is the best way, the words to put it in. So Scott also mentions how millennials value different things than other generations, which that's the whole cake right there, is that we, as millennials, grew up in a different time. We grew up with different things, with different people, and different resources. So we are different people, and we value different things. That is the entire reason that we're having this conversation. It's the most important concept of the whole video. It's the most important concept of this whole discussion worldwide. We are different. We grew up differently. We value different people. Or we value different things. Values are exactly why we're even having this talk right now. So I think that he hit the nail on the head with that one. Sabrina is the fourth speaker. And she was discussing technology and how there's a huge gap between generations, which is so true. It's exactly what I was just talking about. We grew up with technology, so we are going to use technology, versus people who didn't grow up with technology aren't going to use it as much because that's not what they grew up with. They grew up with something else. They grew up with different values, so that's what they're going to use. So it's those kind of things, that gap between the generations is causing controversy in the workplace, which is totally understandable. I think that it could be taken care of, and I think that millennials are being looked down upon, which doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to me because this happens every generation. Every generation comes, we're looked down on, then we're going to look down on the next, then they're going to look down on the next. It's just the way life works, and I don't think that's necessarily right, but that's more of a morals thing than a value in millennial, the stereotypes. So millennials are also, I believe, they're very well-rounded in technology, because that's what we grew up with. So I grew up on some kind of technology toy when I was little. Then I grew up and I got to play on the computer. Then I grew up and I was watching TV. And then I had a phone. And now I'm on a laptop. And and so my life is about technology. And it's just a new resource that we have, and we're taking advantage of it. And older generations aren't so excited about that. Some people claim that it's jealousy, which, so be it. But we are given a resource, we're going to use it. Why not? Why would I give you something and then not let you use it? It's like handing you a cupcake and telling you not to eat it. That's not how it works. If I'm going to give you something, you're going to eat it, you're going to use it, you're going to take it to the full advantage. Make the most out of it. Ever since we were little, technology has consumed our lives. Older generations didn't grow up like this, so they value that part of society differently. They value that resource differently because they didn't have it, or they didn't have it to the extent that we have it. And the next generation they're going to have more than we have. It's just how it works. Millennials think that it's a very valuable resource and it can make life easier and more advanced. And it'll help us advance in these things. All these things that older generations are doing by hand or slowly, we could do faster. And that, why not do it faster? the older generation have the mindset that they should stick with what they know, the long way, we're going to do it like this, and millennials are like, scratch that, we're doing it this way, and that's what the controversy is. So the conclusion of this video, which was back to the first speaker, also brought up an important idea that older generations definitely want us to succeed. This is not a, we don't like you, we want to be better than you. This is another gap in they're unfamiliar with the ways that we're doing it because we grew up differently, which is what we just talked about. I think this video was very informational, and I think it would be a very helpful video, or this is a really helpful topic, I think, in general, but this video as well, to show all generations so that we can get all perspectives on it, so that the older generation can see what we think and what we feel. I do think it's a little outdated, but that it's pretty much right, majority. So yeah, thanks.